Hello, in the last video we showed a demo about how our application is working, and we explained the structure of the files and the relation between the project components. In this video we are going to create our API project, which is .NET Core Web API using .NET Core version 8. Now let's create our backend. Let's open Visual Studio. Then we will select ASP.NET Core Web API. We can search here. And yes, that's it. We click next. We will select the folder and the project name. It would be Task Management System. Now click next. We will select .NET 8. Now create. Now the project has been created. Let's start adding the configuration. Now let's look back at the structure and see how we will organize our folders and files. We'll start with entities. So let's go here and create folder, entities. In entities we will have employee, and we will have task. Then we have DB context. We'll create a new folder. We will call it database context. And inside this we will create file called task db context. Now we have services. Inside services we will have employee service, and task service. Now we have models. We'll create models folder. Inside this we will have tasks models, employee models, and shared models. Let's start creating these 3 folders. Task models, employee models, and shared models. Inside task model we have task model and create task model. This is for representing the data and this is for creating the data. Let's name the first one task DTO and the second one create task DTO. For employee we will have employee model. Let's make it employee DTO. Finally we have shared models. We have paged result, paged result. Now lastly we have controllers. Inside controllers we have employee controller and task controller. Let's go to the controllers. We have task controller, and employee controller. Now we have finished creating all files and folders required for our system. Now we'll start designing our database. In the database we will have only 2 tables. One is employee and one is the task. As we can see here, employee has only ID and name, and task table has ID, name, description, and employee ID, which is the foreign key from employee table. And we can see this relation between employee and task, which means that each task can be assigned one employee or no employee. So we see here 0 or 1. It means we can create task without assigning, or we can assign to one employee. And in the relation here we can see for each employee we can assign 0 task. I mean, we can have employee which no tasks assigned to that employee, or it can handle many tasks. So we can see 0 to star. Now we'll start creating the database. let's name it task management DB. Now first we'll create the employee table. Here we have ID from int. Now set as primary key and the identity is yes. Second, we have name from okay. Now let's save this with employees. Now let's create the second table. Task ID from int. This will be the primary key and it has the identity. We have name, we have description, and employee ID from int. Let's save this with tasks. Now we can see these two tables have been created. Now we will add the relation between these two tables. Tasks with employees. Employee ID. From employee we have the primary key ID. In tasks we have the employee ID. Okay, now we have created the tables. Now we can check here. First let's save. Now let's check the keys. We can see we have in tasks we have the primary key and we have this foreign key between tasks and employees. Now we finished creating the database. Now let's return to .NET Core Web API project. First we'll start with entities. Let's start with task. First we will map this to tasks. Now we map it, the task entity to tasks table. Now we have the key which is ID. Now we have name, we have description, and employee ID. And last thing, we will have to create the employee object. Now let's go to the employee and do the same. Table employees, and have the name, and last thing we have the tasks. Now we finished creating the entities. Let's start creating the DB context. The DB context should extend from DB context, which we will have to install the entity framework. First thing, we have to create the constructor. This text parameter of DB options. And we will pass it to the super class. Now we will have to add the two collections, which are tasks and employees. The task should be from entities. Now we have finished creating the entities and the DB context. Now let's start doing the models. Let's start with task DTO. In task DTO, this is the model will be used to display the data. Now we will have ID, name and description. Also we will have employee ID, employee name. For create task, we will have here, we don't have the task ID because it will be generated by the database, so we need name, and this is required, and same string links is 50. We have also the description, and employee ID, which is nullable. Now inside employee we will have the employee ID, and we will have the name. This employee DTO is to display the employee data. Now let's do the last model, which is paged result. This paged result will be generated to display the paged result of a list. Now we have paged result of D. It has two properties: public list. This will be the list, and total count. This will be from long. Get and fill. Now we have finished creating our models, entities, database context.